The soundtrack. We are live now. I'm just going to go across to Facebook and check that we're live properly. And Tom's going to sing us some songs. Lead us into a meditation. All right. If you're jumping on, say hello. Here we go.
Hey, Jess.
Hey, Jess. All right. Just going to give it a minute. Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Emily Claire and my special guest, Tom Fortmayer. I can't believe that I did Tom Mayer Forts the other day.
It's okay. That's all right. It's okay. Stranger things have happened.
Yeah, I'm sure I have. Hey, Marta. Thank you for joining.
Hey, Marta. Nice to see you.
All right. We got Sarah, Victoria. Say hello if you're jumping on. We love to talk. And we love to interact with you beautiful human beings.
Yes, definitely. This topic, it warrants some questions, definitely.
Oh, yes. Welcome. I'm so excited. Let me just quickly introduce Conscious Conversations for anyone jumping on. They're like, what is that? Well, Conscious Conversations is a new group that I have just created to really explore consciousness and discover new and amazing things about each other inside of consciousness. Really, to just get back to how we are all just uniquely one. Tom and I wanted to change our names to One or Om. And this conversation, we've really just created that we're not going to hold back. We, we don't have the intention of upsetting anybody, and we're happy to interact with you. If you do get triggered or reactivated by this conversation, we invite you to be with it and continue to interact. And I'm really quite excited, if you can't tell, about having this exploration with you, Tom. So I just want to quickly say a little bit. I only know Tom via the lives that Jess has done with him. Hey, Sky.
Hey, Sky.
And so I really just ripped off what was on your profile, and I know this is really just an identity piece. Tom's an author. He is a therapist, motivational speaker, and the creator of Free Mind app, which I have, by the way. I didn't mention that before. Yeah, it actually is really amazing. I listen to meditations and podcasts as I'm going to sleep, and now this is my new favorite. So
awesome. That makes me very, very happy.
Yeah, I'm a fangirl. So did you want to just introduce yourself a little bit more juicier than I did?
That was pretty good. I think in the simplest terms, up until I was 27, I was a ridiculous hedonist looking for happiness kind of in all the wrong places, in all the wrong ways. And then without being a spiritual seeker, I had one life-changing, paradigm-shifting epiphany. And since that moment, I have been obsessed with both happiness and epiphany because it happened to me. My life was changed in one instant. So I've become obsessed with learning how to help other people's lives change rapidly. And of course, on my mission to understand real happiness, I had to then explore a whole new world. And for me, the juiciest world is around oneness spirituality or oneness philosophy, understanding the interdependent, interconnected nature of this field of consciousness that we are intrinsically part of, and how the self or the ideas of self really that our modern world seems to just is all about cementing that. And actually happiness comes from actively dissolving that rigid idea of ourselves being a separate entity. And so for me, having this conversation it's the thing I'm most passionate about.
Yeah. It's enlivening to have this conversation because, as you just mentioned, it's like the process of dissolving, that which has us be just in our physical versus to present to that we're all like, and it's woo woo. It's woo woo for those that know me. They know that I dip inside in and out of being really woo woo and very street talk. So
I
I'm
like
okay
it.
with
Woo
that.
woo street talk. Good. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
me too. Good.
that's my flavor. But it really is like, what's outside of this physical realm? What are we not present to? And tonight we're going to be exploring the illusion of self. And I really want to have this conversation in a way that we get to share our experiences, like the experience that you just said that, you had this epiphany moment. I totally relate to that. And 10 years ago now, that's where my journey started with really discovering what consciousness was. And it's because I got present to my own, and that's what now I would call label awareness, is like present to my own consciousness. And, my thoughts are aware of my thoughts. And this topic is so juicy because there's so much to it. But let's keep it simple, Tom. Like we said before.
I can't promise that, but we'll see what comes through.
Yeah, definitely. So let's kick it off. I really do want to hear, what was that epiphany moment for you? Just tell us, unleash it on us.
Okay. All right. I will. Let's start there. Okay. So, I mean, I will summarize it, but basically,
Jess is asking if we're gurus. She needs answers, she says.
definitely not. So one of my kind of values, which is, is really, really important, which is the fact is like, there is no position of authority. And as we were discussing in our last talk, Jess, actually, that everyone's got a unique perspective on life because that they are a unique position in the net of interconnectedness. And so as everything spins, we all get a unique viewpoint, and there's value in all of our experiences. And I've had some pretty enlightening experiences, and at the same time, on any average Tuesday, I can still be a complete dick. So this is not about pretending to be special or above or better. This is about having more and more enlightened moments without any idea of us being more special than anyone else.
Yeah, and just stay tuned because I really want to dive in later. We talk about there is no separation between our own humanity and this thing that we call consciousness, soul, spirituality. And, it's like when we are not noticing the polarization and bringing back, I mean, people call it balance. But again, it's just awareness of when we're being a dick versus when we're like in this enlightened state. So It's like, how do we accept all of that? And I'm calling that like really expressing and accepting our humanity, being all of it.
Agreed.
And that's where I really think that this freedom that we talk about, freedom, I think that's where freedom exists. Is when we get to be with all of it.
Yeah, we can love all of it, and we go beyond the labels of identity, but we also go beyond the labels of this morality of picking on parts and putting them down. In so many circles, the ego gets this really bad reputation. Our ego is just a survival mechanism with outdated tools. It's best grounded in love. That part of me that wants to be a dick is just my inner caveman who just needs to know there's plenty of food coming and that no one's gonna like drag my woman off by the hair. It's like, and unless he wants that to happen, and then that's my but it's putting love around all these different contracted parts of us and working on what's the quickest way to return. For me, spiritual fitness is like physical fitness is the how long does it take us after getting to our maximum heart rate to then get back to our resting heart rate? Emotional fitness or spiritual fitness is like, how long does it take us to stop being a dick?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
because we're going to be a dick. That's bound to happen, you know. But like, how quickly can we go? Oh, I'm being a dick. You know what? Sorry, I drop it. I forgive myself, and I apologize, and I clean it up. You know, it's like if we can spot it in the moment, then that's magic. You know, and it's like that's what we're looking for. You know, it's just to be able to have that internal awareness of when we're coming from fear or whether we're coming from love. I mean, it really is. And the universe constantly reflects back to us if we're coming from our contraction or our identity or our politeness or our personality, because it's just not pleasant. What gets reflected back doesn't work as well. And then when we come from our universality, we feel freedom, we feel aliveness, we feel lively, and there's a blessedness. You know, things are efficient. You know, there's a flow. And we're like, oh, cool, I'm in alignment. How nice, you know? And then, you know, we turn a corner on the river and the water's choppy and it's, you know, we've got to do our best to kind of put our loving arms around all of it and get beyond that part of us, which is our survival separate sense that wants to point fingers, create labels, have more good stuff, have less bad stuff, you know? And it's like, actually, it's just rising above and seeing all of it as golden.
Yeah, definitely. Now you go a little bit robotic, Tom, and I think that's someone trying to hack our conversation. That's okay. I hear you loud and clear though. And I hear your passion. I hear so much passion behind what you're saying. And I really, to summarize what you're saying, I would say that's just mastery of self. You know, that's being at mastering, you know, how do I get back to, you know, what's really important to me? How do I get back to purpose, what some people would say? How do I get back to spirit, soul? And I'm like, that's mastery of self, or mastery of humanity, like mastering your own humanity. And I love my ego too, by the way. It has me do my hair in the morning. Because otherwise, I think I might be a little bit nutter, and not many people would be able to hear me out. So yeah, you're right. Our ego definitely plays a very big part in you know, in this conversation. Actually, one of my most favorite quotes that I recently heard was, "Start to relate to everyone as if they are God in drag." And and those that are already exploring self and self-awareness will totally know what I just said. They're probably laughing and falling off their chairs. But I still want to hear. We got sidetracked. We got Jess Clay here going off the chain. He's got all of the questions under the sun. Everything I say is right and justified. Yep. Okay. Jess' ego is very prominent. If I have to put a number on anywhere from 5 to 24 hours, I think Kelsey's talking about the time that she starts to be a dick to when she comes back to her enlightened state.
At least it's not decades, Kelsey. You know, there's room for improvement, but at least it's not decades.
Yeah, that's funny too, Kelsey, that you say that. Before I had this epiphany moment, I would say, now that we're going into epiphanies, before I had an epiphany moment, I could not describe to you, or I couldn't really relate to having had an enlightened state. It didn't exist in my environment. And by my environment, it didn't exist in my thoughts. It didn't exist in the way that I experienced life. There was either I was being a dick or I was being a people pleaser. And, you know, I'd either be a dick and turn into a really nice person and be very apologetic and what can I do for you? I didn't mean it. Not really own my actions, but there would just be so much wrong in what I had done. And so I, you know, before that epiphany moment, I can't really say that I had an enlightened space to go to. I wasn't aware that actually existed. So for me, like you said, that epiphany moment happening in one moment, like in an instant, it was really like I had put myself through trauma that had existed in my past to be able to step outside of myself and really see myself for who I was.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
It's been said, yeah, you only need one taste. You know, sometimes you have a big paradigm shifting moment where the whole deal changes, but sometimes actually you just got one, you know, one drop of nectar, one taste is enough for that. There's no return. You know, it's the ultimate red pill. You're just like, oh,
Yeah.
oh, okay, wow. You know, and it's just like, but you know, there's no going back, right? There's no going back.
Yeah.
It's
You
like,
go outside and you're like, did that tree always look that good? You know,
yeah,
it's like everything shifts. Yeah.
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 And of course, as well, I want people to be really aware that these moments of clarity, whether you've had small ones or big ones or whatever, you know, it's like, there's a great book by Jack Cornfield. It's like after the ecstasy, now the laundry. So like having these moments of unity consciousness where we are experiencing reality beyond the sense of the limited self. It's like they're glorious and expansive, but that doesn't mean that there isn't then just loads of like mucking out the stable. You know what I mean? It's like then you have to get really into the laundry. The inevitability of the healing begins then. That's not the end. That's not the end of suffering. It's the beginning of your deep awareness of how much suffering is holding us back. And so it's like, you know, then there's mountains to climb, and those mountains never end, but it goes from being a kind of having a mountain to climb when we would never choose to climb a mountain to being a mountaineer that loves climbing mountains, you know. And it's like, and then that's then it's a lifelong mission, and it's one where we're just deep down really falling in love with ourselves and falling back in love with life. And so it's like, why would you want that to end? It's a lifelong process that we celebrate, ideally.
Yes. And that suffering piece, you know, I actually, you know, bringing it back to experience, because, you know, Tom and I could talk forever about forever in context, you know, and all of our knowledge, and I really want to bring it back to experience. And I want to share with you, Jess, Claire and I, we're housemates. Most people that are watching will know that. And we are two human beings that really take life by the balls. And the way that we do that is we constantly show up for each other, and we show up for ourselves in a way that we are expanding really quickly in our awareness of ourselves and each other, and constantly at work at what's in the space between, you know, myself and, for instance, you, Tom. What's in this space? And so what gets in the way of me and other people? And I got to say, yesterday was quite explosive. You know, there was something that happened, and before I share it, I just want to say I have been like, I mentor a group of young adult men, some of them young adult men and some of them mostly men. And in that space, we are going to work on men being able to fully express themselves and really unleash themselves unapologetically for their anger, their frustration, their love, their compassion, just unleash all of it. And so I have been really requesting of the universe to grant me space for people to really show up in their full humanity. And I really didn't realize it would happen this quickly, right?
It's a dangerous threat.
Yes. And then I keep thinking, be careful what you wish for, because it really does come into our reality. And so yesterday, you know, something quite sad and something quite, you know, just received a message from someone with really quite sad news. And, you know, she was, you know, replying to this message and sharing these messages with me and telling me, you know, how she was feeling about it. And I could tell there was so much conflict for her, and she can't be there for this person. She really wants to be. And, you know, my brain was like, how do you get her to just really express, you know, how do you get her to just like fully share what she's going through? And then I turned to Jess and I said, what do you really want to say? Because I could tell she was holding back. And she just unleashed it. It was like a storm had erupted. And I was like, I asked for this and I'm not prepared. So this storm is happening in front of me, And my body is like, get out. Get out of this situation. This is not safe. Run away. You know, I could hear my thoughts. You know, this is dangerous. This is dangerous. You shouldn't be here. This is, you know, my survival mechanism was like, at first was freeze, and then it was like flight. I was like, I got to get out of here. So I went to the bathroom and I bawled my eyes out. And then I came out and Jess was like, you okay? You ready to create? We were going to create something in our business. And I just said to her, I am not okay. I'm really sorry, but I'm not okay. I'm so triggered. I'm so upset and I don't know why. And I really want to be here for you. But I'm like, and so I was saying all this stuff to try and articulate the way that what I was experiencing. And, you know, knowing that she was going through this like awful grief, and emotionally, physically, I had checked out. I was like in my head, just being with my thoughts. And, you know, then obviously having me check out and just being in that state, she was like, you can't hold me. You know, she then got reactivated, as you do as a human being when you're sad. When you're sad, you're grieving, and no one can hear you out. You just like, screw the universe, you know, just screw it. So she took off, and I had what most people would describe as an anxiety attack, right? I had a lot of energy happening in my chest that couldn't get out quick enough. And so I had a lot of trouble breathing. And so I spoke to a friend, and she's amazing. She's incredible. Instantly, I called her and I just said, I'm hyperventilating. This has just happened. I know it's not Jess's fault, but, you know, what's going on right now? I don't get it, because I thought that, you know, being this person who's super enlightened and has full awareness would not experience this kind of emotions. I was like, you know, totally, what's wrong with me? And she said, you just had a storm. It was a beautiful storm, you know, and then I realized, yeah, and I asked for it. I asked the universe for this because I wanted to know what would take me out of being for humans to be able to really express themselves and really go there. And like instantly the universe is like, here you go. Here's your best friend and she's hurt. How are you going to be with it? And so it was almost like someone had brought this blazing light and then had shined it on all of the parts of me. All of those bruises that I didn't realize were there were being touched so that I could see them and mend them. You know, and I said to her, we were on the phone for an hour, and I got off, and before I got off, I said, wow, that really was a beautiful, beautiful suffering. Because had I not have gone through that, I never would have been able to then clean up with Jess and really hear what she needed. And I never really got for myself what it's going to take for me as a human being to be able to be with that kind of suffering. So, and I choose, I don't know, anyone else might experience this and go, fuck that. And you know, a lot of people I know probably would have made Jess wrong and been like, get out of my life. Or made themselves wrong, like I did, and stayed there forever. Instead, it was like, wow, this is what comes up for me when someone's really in their rage and in their upset. Yeah. And it just comes from a memory in the past when my dad would be happy one minute and the next minute very unpredictable and very violent. And there's this experience of helplessness. So had I not like really experienced that with someone that I love so much, and being able to just reflect back to myself, wow, what is it about my conditioning that's getting in the way of seeing what's really there? and conditioning, I'll quickly say, thoughts, feelings, sensations going on in the body. How are they getting in the way of me receiving what I need to hear? Yeah. So,
Well, I mean, yeah, I think it's like when we're triggered, it's always speaking to something unresolved, right? So the universe is either loving us with blessings or loving us with conflict. Right? There's always an invitation to remember who we are. It's like, it's not so much that what is blocking me from being able to hear or be there for my friend. It's like, how is this situation lovingly bringing to my attention how I'm not truly be able to be here in life because this is still stuck in my gut.
yeah.
You know, this is, it's every interaction is a reflection of how free we are. And of course, it's more likely to turn up between our loved ones because we care so deeply about feeling safe with them or being treated well. And so that's why relationships are so challenging, because, you know, they create these perfect storms because we care. You know, if someone we don't care about is being awful, it doesn't matter. It doesn't speak to our sense of safety. But we've bet on someone. We've built a home with somebody. We are building a life or a friendship, and it's like, and then they become unstable, and it can speak to our stability. But all of those cracks that can wobble our central security are cracks that are laid down in childhood. And so you know, we're being wobbled to see how stable we are, you know. And it's all it's all always love.
Yeah, definitely. Something that I heard a few days ago as well, Tom, is we are all projections. You know, if we were to talk about self, so we have our physical body, and we think, you know, what is consciousness? Consciousness is a projection going on up here that filters through and has us see and experience what we have in our environment. And if Jess, if my friends, my family are a projection, are my projection, and there erupts this, you know, trigger or this storm, and the risk is inside of the people that we care about, the risk is that we lose that projection. And ultimately, we're losing a part of ourselves. And that's really where I see the beauty in it, is like, this suffering exists inside of me because if it didn't, I wouldn't be seeing it.
Yeah, or feeling it. It's all,
yeah. Ah, it's also beautiful. Everyone, we got a couple of people here. Can you talk more about people we care about or care about us triggering versus a random who says something to which weren't hurt because we don't care? Is it because it's a betrayal from a person we thought we could trust?
Well, okay, so let's speak to that. Yes, sometimes, but more importantly, when our heart has opened to somebody, they're automatically in the same quadrant of where we received most of our wounding when we were younger. So any slight or doubt or lack, it goes straight to those moments. We are all packed full of moments of disappointment, sadness, fear, betrayal. And most of us haven't processed those feelings from our childhood. When we're younger and when we're let down, we tend to blame ourselves. We do two things. We blame ourselves because that gives us a sense of control, and we do not want to think that our carers or parents were in any way faulty, because one, we're dependent on them, and two, we just want to believe they're awesome. So we choose to believe they're awesome even when they're not. So when they're not, we have to make sense of why they're not being awesome to us, and we're in the dynamic, so we simply equate that to our failing, and we're like, oh cool, my parents are awesome, I'm just a bit shit. And the second thing we do is we tell ourselves, no, it's just normal. That's just normal. It's normal my needs won't be met. It's normal that people are disappointing. So we have these two limiting beliefs that create this fulcrum of self-sabotage, imposter syndrome, not receiving, pushing away compliments. And so most people are walking around with this broken heart, which hasn't been healed, still blaming ourselves, still believing that people will let us down, still hoping that they won't. And so then, because we've got that all going on, it works as a magnet where we either attract people to us that will disappoint, or we perceive people as disappointing even when they're being awesome. And
Mm.
either way, or the third, we operate with people in a way that it invites them to disappoint us. We have that experience where we're with someone, we're not normally a bully, but with this one person, we really feel compelled to bully them, or we actually bully them, or and this can even happen with abusive stuff or exploitative stuff. We're like, wow, I feel drawn to behave outside of my normal ethics. And actually, you start to recognize this is often a reflection of that person's belief system. This is projective identification, where the field of someone's projection is so strong that it pulls us in to play out their dramas, even if the role is outside of our norm. So we either attract people to us that are naturally like that. We think people are behaving like that even when they're not, and we end up causing fights based on that's how we act with them. And thirdly, which is the most painful, we bring out from people aspects themselves that they wouldn't usually do in terms of letting us down and hurting us. And so that's the universe loving us. If we're having that conflict in our life, it is literally the universe saying, hey, what are you holding on to? And it's, and we go through the anger, we go through the rage, go through all of those, self-loving realizations that we should have been treated better. And then we get down to the real bedrock of healing, which is just good old-fashioned heartbreak, like a young kid's absolute heartbreak. And so the fundamental capacity to experience a divine connection to the universe and to feel the blissful states of the kind of oneness field is almost impossible if we're holding on to childhood trauma. It's like, and actually, and conversely, when we connect to the field of unconditional love and we're really, really experiencing that, then those moments of trauma appear to us and we're able to dissolve them like a slither of tin in a furnace of love. It's like that we can breathe them out. And so it's such a strange paradox. So many spiritual schools, they'll be like, oh, your trauma, you don't need therapy. It's only part of your ego structure. Transcend your ego. And then you can just be in the oneness bliss. And it's like, that does not work. That doesn't work. You're spiritual bypassing motherfuckers. It's not going to do anything, right? That's dangerous. You've been meditating for 30 years and you're still angry with your mother. It's like, in order to transcend the illusion of self and the limitation of self and the pain of self, we have to dive into what first formed the self. And we have to bring peace and love, forgiveness, acceptance, and more importantly, rest and relaxation to the system. We have these fragments of our soul that are terrified, that are still angry, still think that they live with that parent that might explode angrily, still worrying about whether those kids are going to be mean to us at school. It's like those pockets of pain exist in us and they take us from the bliss of yes. In the simplest terms, the person that is feeling the most free, the most enlightened moment one can have is when we meet the present moment with absolutely no resistance, when we are a 100% yes to what is. Now, we cannot be a 100% yes to what is if we're not 100% yes to who we are, because we're in that moment. If we think we need to be taller, have more hair, or have a different shaped ass, then we have, that's a fragment of resistance. Whether it's a lot or a little, that's resistance. And so what I've come to see is we cannot be 100% at peace with the moment unless we're 100% at peace with who we are. And we cannot be at peace with who we are unless we are at peace with everything that has made us who we are. So the route to get beyond the limitation of self is to dive into what formed the sense of separation, what formed the sense of inadequacy, what formed the sense of fear. And if we can then journey into the structure of what made our personality, then we get the keys to unlock it and dissolve it.
What had us have the certain conditioning that we have? Where did it come from? And I hear a lot of people say, these thoughts are not my own. When I started to become aware of what I was actually saying, I was like, my mum used to say that. And then I'm like, ah. And then she used to say, her mum used to say that. And then her mum, and then her mum, and then her mum. It's like these thoughts are not my own. These beliefs are not my own. And Kelsey, I just want to check in too. Did that give you something? That was super enlightening. Thank you. And even being 100% in with the hurt as well. Sorry, what did you say, Tom?
Yeah, I'm just saying she was like, that was enlightening, but also she's hurting. So I'm just sending some love. And, when we, journeying into our freedom, is about being willing to feel the degree to which we were let down. Like if we can show willing to the younger versions of ourselves that we will sit for another 14 billion years and hold them in their sadness, then it will heal. But I want to be really clear. This is not the I'm crying because my childhood was painful. Those tears will never end. This is I'm crying because the truth is I was massively let down and I was a perfect entity that deserved unconditional love. Now that's heartbreak of the soul, and that forms and changes. Those tears are the phoenix's tears that heal. And from that we rise whole, and we remember and realize our inherent, innate, unchangeable, immovable wholeness. And so as we then ground that in love, we bring those fragments of ourselves back home. And with that, we bring gifts and playfulness and sensuality and creativity. And then we realize that we're richer. This is the prodigal kind of healing. We're richer for having those parts having been disconnected and then returned. So then we get to realize, wow, I don't just get to be great in spite of my past. We actually dare to dream and believe and see that we get to be more awesome precisely because of the pain of our past. And that's when we're able, like you went on a journey last night, Emily. First half of the evening, you'd be like, fuck this is awful. Second half, as painful as it was, I'm sensing now you're grateful that happened.
Oh, absolutely, which is why I call it a beautiful storm.
Yeah.
And that's the allness of the truth. Being okay with all of it, being okay with the suffering, the hurt, the anger, the frustration, because without that, what is there to come back to? And Tom, you mentioned that there was this great heartbreak, that we are these divine, beautiful human beings born. And then, it's almost like that's taken away from us. And we decide,
but also, we live in a society which then confirms our inadequacy, confirms our separation. Our education systems, most of them at least, most of our parenting models, and the way in which parents try and encourage us to be better, just actually confirms that we're inadequate as we are. The workplace is hierarchical and is based on a ladder where we're trying to get from one place to another. It's all about being fucking upwardly mobile, different. It's like A's fucking shit. It's all about getting to B, and it's like, and it's like the whole shooting match. The whole shooting match is geared in a way which separates us from our natural sense of happiness.
Yeah, and I see that too. And even in the spiritual world, I've been dipping into embodiment and a lot more meditation and breath work. And what I notice is that there's this, I'm going to call it a hidden agreement, that being human for some reason isn't enough. We are trying so desperately to be something else all the time.
But it's like, what's really interesting, and I really agree with that, is that within every practice, within every reflection, there's also a kernel of truth, and our ego grabs onto it and creates suffering. But it's like, the truth is, for the singular field of consciousness, we are this evolving awareness, right? And so it's funny, if you look back across the years, all of the spiritual movements across the last few hundred years, all would say things like, it's just about to change, it's all happening, everyone's getting switched on, The truth is, when we become aware of the singular field of consciousness that we are, it constantly feels on the edge of something massive, right? Because it is. because it's literally expanding into space. And we're evolving in every moment. And so, but the ego makes that mean like, oh, I'm going to pay off my mortgage, you know, I'm going to get that qualification, I'm going to get that girl or that boy and that girl. You know, it's just like, you know, it's like the ego co-opts the expansive sensation of evolution and thinks it's about product, thinks it's about external achievement, you know. And I think the most challenging thing, I think, within the world of spirituality, just how much ego has co-opted it. And so it's become about, you know, manifesting and, you know, in terms of material wealth. And I've got no problem being, you know, wealthy, but it's like,
how well
you know,
have an orgasm just by breathing, you know, all of this.
That's it. One step, you know, 2 steps, 3 steps, you know, it's like the whole thing is, for many people, not all, is a co-opted place of ideas, which just confirms where I am is not the deal. You know, it's like, you know,
I'm not supposed to be here.
You know, our spiritual development is about unlearning the idea that there's anything wrong.
Yes.
I just want to read some comments. Kelsey said something. I don't know, yeah, that's really, really beautiful. So you were saying when you fall into someone's, you know, realizing they don't care about me, and you're reminding yourself that you care about you. Yeah, that's you know, this is what we, you know, in psychology they call that an internal locus of control. How we feel about who we are is based on how we feel about who we are, not on something external, right? And that you know is really the core principles of emotional intelligence. That it's not what's happening, it's what I'm making it mean. It's what I'm doing with what's happening, and it's the only thing we can control. It's the only thing. We have no control in life. Change is constant. To this, we create our reality with our thoughts. It's like, no, we can mold aspects of our reality with our thoughts, but there are some things that are non-negotiable. But the one thing we do have control over is our choice around our perception and our choice around maintaining our self-loving perspective. You know, it's like that. Blessings be is all we need.
Definitely.
And it's all we've got.
Yeah, I love that. And to be surface level with you, Kelsey, I'm in the dating game at the moment, and you know, I'm part of this beautiful group called the Connected Women. It's all about intimacy and learning about you know, the different masculine and feminine energies and all of this. And inside of that, you know, talking about when you're on a date, shift your thinking from, do they like me? You know, because I imagine we all been there, right? Where we're on a date and we're like, I don't know if they like me. And there's these thoughts of, did I dress appropriately? Do they like my style? It's all about, do they like me? Do they like me? Versus like, do I like them? Do I want this person in my environment? How do I feel around this person? Can I really express myself? Can I go there? Do we mesh? Do our flavors, or, you know, do they work? So it's like, I love that. That is definitely like a emotional intelligence piece. Is like, well, do they like, you know, do I like them?
Well, it's getting beyond this idea that if someone likes me, I have more value, right? And it's getting much more into the idea that it's really about compatibility. That like, if I'm compatible with you, then that doesn't mean there's something special about me. It just means there's something special about me for you, right? It's like compatibility, but the ego goes on a date wanting to be seen to be special, right? And it's like, because then we're going to be safe, because we don't want to be discarded and not seen special. And it's like, it's just a jigsaw puzzle. It's just a jigsaw puzzle, right? Your only job is to make sure your edges are kept crisp and clear. Like, imagine doing a jigsaw puzzle where all the pieces were wrapped in bubble wrap. No one would know where the fuck to go. That's the personality. So the personality goes on, it puts on perfume, it masks its true scent, it tries to be all that it's not, and no one knows what the fuck is going on, you know. And then they you know, get sexual and they feel that there's a sexual connection. They mistake that for compatibility too, which is ridiculous. It's like, you know what, you know, like getting sexual with people, you feel connected to them. You know, sexual connection is not evidence of compatibility. So it's like, just go on date, be really clear about who you are and what your edge is, so people can see where you fit.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And you don't need, you know, I don't know about you, Tom, but you don't need 10, 15 years of experience, trial and error to to
You just
get for yourself, you know, what masks you're putting on.
you just broke up there. It sounded good. What did you say?
I just broke up. I just broke up. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Basically, I'm actually really hearing this is perfect that we've evolved here, because I really want to what I'm already hearing is that we're starting to talk about this idea of identity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this construct, these masks that we put on to have the people around us validate us for our physical appearance, the scent that we have, the feeling that we give others. And I even know for myself, for a really long time, being someone who feels safe when other people validate my nature. So validate that I'm likable, that I'm bubbly. When that's validated, I feel safe. And so I notice the masks that I put on, and, the way that my identity starts to, the way I dress, the perfume that I use, the way I do my hair, all of it exists, inside of this identity, to fit in or have a sense of belonging and validation from others. And I also want to say there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I think that is a massive part to actually being aware of, our own, like you said before, emotional intelligence, being aware that we are just doing those things for validation and to belong and a sense of security and safety.
Well, again, I think there's this really fine balance, isn't there, between really enjoying being in our true, liberated, free essence and self, right? Which has a unique flavor, like you say, you're bubbly, right? Whatever it may be, right?
It's bubbly.
And it's not based on our trauma response or as a coping strategy for getting on, but it's really related to our true essence and how we most like to be fully self-expressed. And then there's great joy in being that in our entirety and seeing that we can light up the world and that we're bringing joy and bringing happiness to the world, right? And there's a big difference between enjoying that and needing to see that so that we can go to bed feeling okay about ourselves.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Yeah, there's this self-validation piece.
Yeah.
How do you come back to that you are whole, that you are complete already? That the essence of you, this purity of you never left you, even when this trauma occurred, or these decisions were made where you don't belong. This purity and this beautiful, sacredness about who you are as a human being, it never left. It's just now a very awesome part of you that fits in with all the other awesome parts. And I think when we get to tap into that purity is when we most feel enlightened and playful. And, this sense of completion. We don't have to be or act in any way to fit in. And that's the expression. That's really the expression.
Yeah, in the simplest terms, it's just experiencing ourselves without fear. Fear of survival, fear of being liked, fear of being adequate or not adequate, fear, it's like when we get beyond our survival circuitry and we're in the unconditional loving vibration where we're in love with everyone and everything, including ourselves, and there's nowhere to go, there's nothing to achieve, then the space for us to be our truly expressed individual and unique aspect of ourselves and be a voice box for the channel of what the field of consciousness wants to think and feel and express in the moment. It's like we're working for the big team then, we're taken care of, we're in a blessed space of flow and the joy that is reflected and the skills that comes through as we connect to that. You know, it's like the whole thing becomes a self-referencing, like, blessedness that lets us know we're in alignment and that there's nothing to fear and everything's taken care of, you know. And it's not by something separate to us, it's by this field of awareness that we're softening into as ourselves, as opposed to the small, limited, contracted, fearful personality where we're as identified with the large, unlimited, loving universality, you know. And within that, the personality exists, the mask exists, the egotism exists, but it's like we're an expanse above and beyond that, in which, but not as superior to that, but where we just love, we put loving arms around all those parts of ourselves. We can enjoy wanting to look nice, we can enjoy being told that we're a nice character, we can just enjoy the game of it all in the same way we'd enjoy eating a strawberry and we'd give credit for a delicious strawberry. We can give credit to ourselves for being a delicious human, and we can enjoy being devoured by others for their enjoyment. You know, that's, you know,
I mean, that sounds great.
You know, that's all allowed. That's all part of the game of enjoyment. Arguably, some scriptures describe the journey of us, of the divine forgetting itself, then embodying as a separate entity, supposedly, and then having the experience of returning. If the divine lives in the absolute, then it doesn't get to experience its awesomeness. It's only in the return to our divine essence that do we get the buzz of remembrance. You know, it's like, yes, I'm cosmic being expressed as all things. That's awesome.
It's
you know,
a reminder. Yeah, exactly.
It's a reminder that feels good. If we were just if we were in the undifferentiated field of oneness, there would be no bliss at all.
And how do you say, like, those reminders wouldn't exist without those, like, real push, you know, that real, like, we have moments in our lives that are like, what the fuck happened? I feel like I've gone 1,000 steps backwards, you know, in enlightenment or whatever you want to. I feel like, you know, I was such an asshole with that person. 10 years of training.
14 years.
Yeah. It's like, what happened? I thought I was doing so well. So in speaking to that, you know, like even Kelsey, you were saying, I'm so hurt, but that was really enlightening. It's like that hurt is necessary for enlightenment. And these are reminders of, you know, our essence and our purity. Those reminders wouldn't exist if polarity didn't. And I just keep coming back to that this is self on a soul's journey. You know, this is soul experiencing being human. And how do we be human and express our soul? And I just get goosebumps even when I think about it. And I'm like, because I experienced that for myself. Now, how do I give that magic away to others? You know?
So I see Kelsey's written Painful Enlightening. One of my teachers called it the exquisite excruciation.
Yeah. Exquisite excruciation.
So, I mean, there's two. I mean, there's a short answer and a quick answer. There's a quick answer and a long answer to what you just said there, right? How do we give it to others? So one thing I've learned is, on one level, it's not to talk about spirit. It's to live in a way where people come to know spirit through the beauty and love and the quality of care you bring to the world, right? It's just like you make spirit fucking look awesome, right? Because they're like, I want what she's having, because that girl's on fire, she's love personified, she's got good spiritual fitness, she can be a dick but she returns quickly and owns it. It's like, you know, she's reliable, she's accountable, you know, it's just like quality characteristics. There are, like, according to my understanding and research, like 30 classic characteristics of someone that's really connected spiritually, you know. And it's like, and but so in this, the second question is like, well, what can be done? It's like, well, for me, there's lots of research and lots of studies, and there's lots of people out there that have created a whole bunch of models that enable you to go from fear to love, to go from the limitation of personality to the awesomeness of your universality. You know, that's what I've spent 20 years researching. It's like, how can I create experiences, events, products, services that give people those paradigm shifts? And then much more importantly, what are the tools of the laundry work? Like how do we free our mind of the idea of its inadequacy, you know? And so, I mean, that's what the Free Mind Project's all about. That's what the Free Mind app is all about. There are essentially, as far as I can tell, 3 fears that block our natural connection to love and happiness, our spiritual enlightened self. You know, the belief that blocks our peace more than anything is I'm not good enough. And we learned that through the times when our needs weren't met and we blamed ourselves as a kid. Boom, go in, feel the trauma, release the emotion, pick that kid up, let it know that it's pure and deserves love, and it can be boundaried, and it's not too much, and it can ask what it wants, and it deserves to have its needs met. Do that until it believes it. Boom, peace returned. Power, the belief that limits our power more than anything. I'm rushing because we've got 5 minutes left. Let's pack it full of some value. Power, the belief that limits our power more than anything is the belief that something external to me is the solution. If we can turn up in the moment, trust that we are in the moment for a reason, that we have what we need to say and do and be what needs to be done, magic comes through us, flow states occur, and our life becomes artful. We have abundance and extraordinary things happen. We have all the power we need within us. We do not need another thing externally. And thirdly, the belief that blocks our sense of purpose more than anything is I am a pointless nothing in a meaningless universe. And so what you're wanting to do there is using the 3 engines there. Emotional intelligence gets us back to our peace, and we believe I'm perfect as I am. Success psychology helps us get into flow states, build empowered beliefs, visualize, get into incredible states of power where we believe I have everything I need within me. And the key kind of jewel in the kind of in the 3rd pillar of purpose is oneness spirituality. When you see the interconnected nature of everything, you realize there is a reason for every single thing. There are no ordinary moments, which means there's a purpose to you in every moment. And when you get that, you realize I'm a unique and important part of a connected, loving universe. And those 3 beliefs will return you back to your natural state of happiness, your natural state of enlightenment. And yes, we'll still get jarred by the world, but that's just opportunities for deeper healing, deeper connection. And in that, we realize we are not the small self. We are the big self, the single self, the all of all. And in that freedom comes all the joy we could ever have hoped for.
Oh, I love you so much. That was just beautiful. Beautiful. Oh my God. What an epic conversation. And I'm going to wrap this up because I know you got to go, Tom. And I really honor your time. And let me just honor you, you know, for having realized that purpose yourself, you know, taking on that power that can be so fucking scary that you know is within, to now like being able to really impact other people and really like create change on this planet. And I just feel like something interesting, and now it's necessary. Awareness is necessary. So I just want to honor and love that we're out on this journey together, and we're out like arms linked together, taking on the world as one consciousness, as one. And just thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, I want to honor you too for, you know, the beautiful intention you're bringing to this creation, to your beautiful heart, and to, you know, having a passion for talking about this stuff. And, you know, we didn't even get into the, you know, the illusion of free will, you know, and some of the wonder stuff. We've got so much more we could talk about. So I'm really happy to come back anytime and talk about all of this stuff. So it's been really, really lovely being here. I've really, really, really liked it.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining in. Kelsey, Nicole, Jess, Amanda, anyone watching on Facebook, anyone that I may not have mentioned. Marta, you joined in at the beginning. Just thank you. Thank you for being a part of this conversation and taking yourselves on, and really just being in here, and Kelsey for expressing your own humanity, things that are real for you and your reality. And I just think it's just a beautiful contribution that we're all here. So thank you.
And just as a final thank you, we're currently still because of the way the world is crazy at the moment, we're giving away the Free Mind app at the moment. So people can go to freemind.com, free trial, and they can get the full access to the app, which is a systematic way to dissolve fear, free your mind of fear, and connect back to your love and happiness. So please, as a gift from our hearts to yours, please make use of the app. It's been 13 years in the making, and it's made with a lot of love.
It's the most epic design for an app. Like, it's colorful, it's beautiful. So yeah, I have it and I love it. And yeah, I'm actually, if you don't mind dropping a link in this conversation,
Sure.
on my private page. Yeah, so people have an easier access to it. Yeah, get onto that. That app is epic. So
thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us. Signing off now. Love you all, and catch us on Tuesday next week for more conscious conversations too.
Awesome. Bye, guys. Love you all.